Hey guys, Jake Carlson here, host of the Modern Leadership Podcast. Are you ready to focus on amplifying your leadership superpowers? Let's go! Good morning, my friends and fellow elite achievers. Welcome to the Modern Leadership Podcast, where each week we sit down with authors, entrepreneurs, and leaders to explore their journey, diving into the ups, their downs, and ultimately the lessons they learned along the way. Our goal, of course, is to show that everything is figure-outable. Today's guest expert is John DiJulius. John is president of the DiJulius Group and a sought-after authority on world-class customer experience, working with companies such as Ritz-Carlton, Lexus, Starbucks, Progressive Insurance, and many, many more. In his new book, The Relationship Economy, Building Stronger Customer Connections in the Digital Age, he walks us through how to attain meaningful, lasting relationships with our customers. And today, he is our modern leadership guest expert. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's awesome to be part of it.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun today. We have so much to jump into because I think your background aligns perfectly with where I'm at right now in my business and a lot of the listeners are at in their business. And that is, where do we put our marketing and our attention, dollars, and time? But before we jump into that, give us a little background on who you are on a personal level.
Live in Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised, and I have three incredible boys, and got my start almost 30 years ago, and opened a little salon and spa and in Cleveland, and that took off and grew. And in the 90s, because of our reputation for customer service, people started asking me to speak locally, and then that grew to more national. And then when my first book came out in 2002 on customer service, that kind of took me out of the salon and spa industry, and have been speaking and consulting ever since. So I still own the salons and spas, but I'm not active in the day-to-day. All I do is eat, sleep, and drink customer service, customer experience, employee experience. And so we have a consulting firm that, does that.
Well, I would imagine that you and your wife or your significant other needs to go and check out the service within your spas and salons every so often, right?
Oh, God, I wish. I don't know. Other than getting a haircut every 3 weeks, no, I'm not in town enough. But yeah, I'd like to. I need to.
And I think that's important for all of our businesses, right? That we need to kind of secret shop what we're doing to make sure that the experience that our customers are getting is the same experience that we imagine in our minds that they are. And I think this is a great transition that leads us into this discussion and conversation that we have about this. And I mentioned it earlier, I have this real interesting thought in my mind, questions in my mind about where should I be putting my advertising and marketing dollars? And one of the things that you say is in customer experience. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the top customer service companies in the world in every industry, they spend the least in advertising. There's irrefutable evidence that, when you invest, those marketing or advertising dollars into the training of your employees and they deliver a better customer experience, your customers are going to do more, word of mouth and referrals than any great marketing campaign. I focused on a law firm, Carter Mario, injury attorneys out in Connecticut, and they're great. They're really good. But they had a chart that was really incredible, before they went on this, obsession with the customer experience. They had this a graph, and I wish I could show it to you, but it's in one of the books. But it showed like where their new clients come from, and so the graph showed like 70% was advertising, billboard, all commercials, all that, and less than 30% was referral. And then each year that the advertising decreased, and then eventually by like the fifth or sixth year, it was like less than 30% advertising and 70% word of mouth referral. I mean, and that's great because now you can use your money and for other things or be more profitable.
And for those who aren't familiar with like personal injury attorneys and advertising, the big personal injury attorneys that you see on the back of the phone book or popping up on commercials during the day or when you're watching TV, they're spending probably 6-7 figures a month on advertising. So when you talk about dropping from, 70% of their business coming from advertising to 30% of their business, and, the return on those dollars invested by training your staff can be significant in the pocketbook.
Absolutely. I mean, you told us, I was listening to a podcast yesterday. It said, a 1% increase in customer satisfaction could mean, billions of dollars for, an auto maker. I mean, that's crazy, to think about. And it's all relative. If we're a mom and pop, that might mean tens of thousands of dollars. But I mean, just think about that instead of, having people go out there and do brand terrorism on you.
And I heard this quote the other day, and I'm not sure if it's true or not. It could be just one of those internet lies going around. But I heard that they offered a Super Bowl ad to Lamborghini, and the president of Lamborghini said, "Why would I waste money on that? My customers aren't sitting on the couch watching TV." And it's really identifying where your target market is and speaking to them through experience. Like, I've never seen a commercial for Lamborghini. Have you?
No, not at all.
Because their audience is focused elsewhere. And you can imagine that they've developed a reputation and referral process that has been really good for them. I mean, obviously that they've got a lot of prestige. So tell us, you talked a little bit about this personal injury firm. Tell us another example of a couple of firms or a couple of businesses that are doing amazing with customer experience that our listeners can relate to.
Yeah. So, the financial service company, there's one out of Toronto, Canada called Benson Kearley, and they do something that's really cool. They make their account executives spend, they call it the Ford allowance, FORD, and I'll circle back to that. But they make their, they have a $25 a month Ford allowance, where you as an account executive has to spend that on your clients. And it's almost a burden. It's a good burden, but you have to pay attention to things. So Ford stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams. So that's something that's big out of the relationship economy book is we're all preoccupied with ourselves. It's my flight that was delayed. It's my son that got in trouble at school. It's my, top salesperson that's, calling in sick, whatever that may be. But, when we meet with other people, strangers, acquaintances, clients, whatever it may be, we've got to focus on them. So, what we teach is focus on their Ford. Right? Focus on their Ford, the family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So Benson and Kearley took it to a different level where they're having their account executives. You're listening when your client calls in, and you're hoping that they give you something that you can, send them a $25 gift card for something, or a $5 gift card to 5 different people. But, Jake and his wife are celebrating their, 10th wedding anniversary, or they just moved from San Diego to, Phoenix, or, dropping off their son at, Arizona State, anything. But, that's something that's really cool, is building that rapport.
This is a fascinating idea, and I'm reminded of a law firm that I did some work with in the past, where they had a basket of gift cards on the counter and pre-written thank you cards. And anybody on the team, and the gift cards were $5 to Starbucks or $10 to Subway, or, maybe movie tickets, sitting in a basket, and anybody could walk by. The envelopes were right there. The cards were already pretty much pre-filled out. You just have to put a couple of names and a signature, slap a gift card in there, and send them out. And just this idea of creating this relationship. And you talk a lot about the relationship economy. Why is it so powerful that we have these relationships with our customers? If I'm a lawyer, if I'm a personal injury attorney, why do I care about having this relationship with my client? They're probably not going to get into a car accident again that's going to need injury services, right?
Well, and injury attorney is kind of like LASIK eye surgery, right? You probably aren't going to
Braces
have
on my
repeat
kid.
customers, right? But they become alumni.
Yes.
And the whole deal with the relationship economy is today's illiterate are those who have an inability to make a meaningful connection with others. And, we're living in the midst of the touchscreen age, and the touchscreen age is not generational specific. We're all guilty of it. We're all, looking at devices and on social media more than we should. And that has, a seismic shift is happening with all the advances and benefits and convenience technologies bringing us. It's come at a significant cost, and that cost is human interaction, which is vital to customer loyalty, employee satisfaction, and overall, happiness. So, from every aspect of our life, personally, professionally, we've got to make no mistake about it. The decline in people skills that our society is suffering from is the problem of business leaders to fix, from the training of our employees to building that emotional connection with our employees, with our clients, with our vendors, right? So that's where the relationship economy is coming in.
So I'm a business owner, and I believe what you're saying. On an intellectual level, in my head, I understand how creating this relationship is going to be beneficial for me. I think where I'm getting stuck, and help us out here, what do we do next? How do we go to that level of creating this relationship or training our staff? What do we need to do first?
Well, listen, the technology is not the enemy. Okay. I love technology, and using it to eliminate the human experience is. So one example of that, there's a wireless company in Canada that is forcing their customers to use their self-service channels, to the point that if you pick up the phone and call about a problem with your device, or you want to question about your bill, they charge your account $10, right? So I mean, not only is that bad, but think of, there is still a generation that just doesn't use technology and isn't comfortable doing it. But you gotta create the art. So we have to marry the digital with the human experience, right? Use technology to perform basic tasks, enabling employees to focus on what's most important, right? Building the relationship. And so, the art of building relationship has 5 keys to it. We've got to teach ourselves, remind ourselves, and our employees, what authenticity looks like, what having insatiable curiosity means, how to have incredible empathy. We have to find people that genuinely love others. That's the one thing of these 5 you can't train. The other 4 you can train. If you can find people that have authenticity, that have curiosity, that have empathy, you're much better. But you can train on that. You can't train people to love people. And then the last part of the art of building relationships is being a great listener.
So as we're sitting down, and I agree with you on this, John, I think a lot of times when we're hiring employees, we look to the resume, and loving others is not written on the resume. It's something that we've got to get out of them through the interview process. So what are some best practices for identifying when somebody is truly compassionate to other people and understanding of other people and wants to help and be a benefit to other people, versus I'm just paying lip service to this company because I'd like the job?
Yeah, I love that. Love the question, love the direction. So we got to make our interview process un-gameable. Most employees know what's going to be asked. I know that you're going to ask me, well, John, tell me 2 drawbacks. And I got my answers. I'm a perfectionist and I'm a workaholic, right? Bam.
Hey, those are my 2.
Right. So, you want to make, and I think of the interview process, it should be your 30-foot high fence with barbed wire on it. We don't want to be for everyone, right? And that's really critical. So, I got 2 or 3 examples of really good ways where you're making your interview process un-gameable, best practices from other companies. First one is, hopefully you're interviewing, candidates multiple times. The first interview I've seen best is where it's group interviews. So instead of, your HR person or people development director spending, or yourself, right, spending an hour each with 6 different people, you could spend 1 hour with 6 people. And so, it's fact finding. It's sharing what the job looks like. And so, typically the group interview goes around and you say, hey, listen, tell me a time when you went above and beyond, or tell me a time, whatever the scenarios are, they're almost irrelevant. Now, the candidates think what you're judging is who has the best answer, right? And, Jeff lights up and, one ups, whatever, great. What you're really looking for is what Jake is doing when, he's not talking, and one of the other 4 candidates, is he peeking at his Apple Watch, totally disengaged, or is he looking at her, laughing at what she said and making her feel really good? Bam, that's what we're looking for. There's a great example when it's an executive hire that the CEO of Charles Schwab's, Walter Benningen Jr., or the third does. When it's an executive hire from the outside, he will take that person in the interview process to a local diner. All right, they already know to do this, and everything that you order, they screw it up.
He's got it planned before you get there. He tells the staff, hey, we're going to, bring the wrong stuff.
Right. Just make it a debacle to see how that candidate handles himself in a stressful situation, under fire, when he has to be on stage or she's on stage. So, things like that are really great to build in.
One of the things that I often recommend to business owners is when they get to the final interview, past the point where this person looks good, I think we're going to make an offer, let's make a deal. I often have them bring their significant other and go out to dinner with myself and my significant other, or if we're talking business leaders, have them go out, because there's something that happens when you take, I get prepared. I bring my best tie, put on my best suit, and go to the interview. But my significant other, while she wants to put on a good face, she doesn't have the same emotional attachment necessarily to the job and the preparation that I do. And therefore, you can see that interaction when you take them out of their element and put them at a table. And I'll give you a really quick example of this. We went to dinner, my wife and I, with this other couple, and the husband was who we were trying to hire. And we ultimately ended up offering them the job, and it didn't work out. But during the dinner, the signs were there. And I walked away from that dinner saying, I think I should hire the wife, not the husband in this situation. And I think that to this day, I probably would have been better off doing that.
No, that's awesome. And that's exactly it. It's having things in there that just shows, are you a positive person or a negative person? Are you, a day late and an hour short? Why, are you leaving your last job? Oh, it was a great job while I was in school, right? But it's not versus, the boss played politics and his best friend got promoted in front of me. I mean, you'd be surprised at what people say.
Especially, I think, as you ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. And the other thing, the easiest thing is, if I go on social media and track, social media exposes all. And I'm not talking about the partying pictures, and that's a red flag, I'm talking about just like even on Facebook, I could read, 12 to 24 posts, and you can tell what type of person someone is, and if they're angry and always this or a victim. I mean, I'm telling you, I tell my staff that all the time, that that you could just tell so much about someone by what they post. They don't hide well on social media.
Well, we were talking earlier, and I want to swing us back that way, talking about this digital age and the technology that we have. And I think, and we talk of pendulum swings, I think over the past 10, 15 years, because of technology, we've gotten more as marketers, more as customer experience, more as advertisers to the one to many, where we try to bring in technology that allows us to be more efficient or be more productive. You gave the example earlier of the cell phone company out of Canada that I think in their mind, they're saying, look, we're going to send people through this automated process. Therefore, we can save all of this money on, live people, which we can invest in other things. So now this pendulum has swung so far to one side where the customer experience is gone. I feel like it's swinging back. How can we still use technology, digital assets to be productive, but not ruin the customer experience?
And that's exactly it. I mean, I love technology. I'm as guilty as anyone, but marrying it. So, recently I had to bring my MacBook Pro in, and I got to go online, and literally within, I had to be 45 seconds, booked an appointment at, my Apple store that's closest to me on a day that worked for me, and bam, done. I didn't have to call up and wait on hold. And then, but when I got in, I got to meet with DiJulius and tell him about everything, and that was great. It's that you can make appointments online. Yesterday, it's funny. I did have a haircut today at my salon, and my hairdresser cut my hair too short the last time, which I was told I asked for it. But anyway, I realized last night that I didn't need it. Well, first I got a text message, right, saying, "Hey, confirm," treat it up. And I said yes, and which is great. Now it frees up employees not to make those calls that we used to have to pay them to do. But then I realized, and I did. I asked my fiance. I says, "Do I need a haircut? No. Do I even need a no." So I called, and like what we opened with. We were driving to dinner, and I said, "Oh God, I'm scared to call my own." We have a call center that answers phones for all our salons, right? And I'm like scared of what experience is going to be like. And so I say, "Oh God," and so I had it on speakerphone, and it said, "Oh, thanks," whatever the thing is, and it says, "If you'd like a call back, press 2." I didn't even know we had that feature, so I was curious. I usually don't do it, but I was curious, so I hit 2. And, they said, "All right, we'll call you right back." And I hung up, and literally within 30 seconds, they called me back. And, then I was able to talk to them and cancel my appointment. But like that was a great feature, because I knew I was going to be available for the next, 20 minutes because I was driving. So I didn't want to wait on hold. And that's a great feature. I was really proud that it worked the way it's supposed to. And I got a human when I needed a human. And when I, was able to use artificial intelligence, I was able to take advantage of that as well.
And what I hear you saying is that the technology was used to enhance the customer experience in that you didn't have to wait around on hold. They called you back. It enhanced the customer experience. It did not replace it.
Exactly. And that's what I say. Technology is not the enemy. Using it to replace the human interaction is.
All right. Before we jump to the final section of the podcast, there's something I've been dying to ask you about because this is something I absolutely love. And I think based on our conversation so far, I feel like I know where you're leaning on this, but tell us a little bit about energy givers and energy suckers.
We all have that power, and there's especially if we're leaders, parents, we service providers. We're all we can be one of two things, and there's two types of energy that we can give out, and so energy givers are ones that raise the confidence of everyone they come in contact with. They constantly show gratitude and thanks. They give everyone else the credit, right? They believe in others, are there for others when they're struggling, going through a hard time. They're other people's biggest cheerleaders. They find out what other people's goals are and they help them achieve it. They're great listeners. They'll walk through a fire for those around them, and they practice what they preach. So, energy givers, is that. And then obviously we all know what the energy suckers can be, like energy vampires, whatever you want to call them.
And I think that energy suckers tend to, make it about them. And I love that your two favorite words are to give more. And I think the more that we look to others, the more that we are available to support, this goes to customer service, it goes to leadership, it goes to just being a genuine human being. The more that we do that, the less that we're going to draw and take from other people. And I think the reason that this resonated so strongly with me, John, is I just feel like there's so much selfishness, so much what's in it for me around us in business and in just our social circles, that I love this idea of being this energy giver and going out there and giving more. All right, so it is now time for us to switch gears and jump to our final section of the podcast, Learning from Leaders. Are you ready?
I am ready, Jake.
All right, our first question for you then, John, is what is the book currently on your Kindle or bedside table?
So it's funny, I'm a person that reads several books at once, and this isn't bragging. It doesn't mean I read more. I read less of each because it's really important to me. If I only focus on business, then my personal diet or motivation or parenting or all those things struggle. So I'm reading a couple right now, and I bounce around. Maybe 5-10 minutes in each book. But one is how will you measure your life by the recently deceased Clayton Christensen. I'm reading the book Yes, Your Teen is Crazy.
Do we need a book to know that?
Oh my God! Well, it makes me feel a little better that I'm not isolated out there. And then Driving Innovation from Within by Kahan Krippendorf. So those are kind of the three right now.
Excellent. All three great suggestions. Our next question then is your leadership superpower.
It is energy. So when I say that, I believe a superpower, in anything, if we go back to Superman and all those, comics and shows is both can be used for both, good and bad. Right. And mine can be, and I have to be very cognizant of it. I am a lightning rod of energy. And, I have to remember that, so I used to have a quote, that popped up on my phone and on my mirror, created an energizing moment. And that was something I tried to do intentionally, but I had to tweak it after a couple of years and add the silly word positive energizing moment, because I could so easily, be as destructive with my energy if I'm not, careful. If I walk into the office and, ask, people like, where was this? I asked you for this yesterday, or if I walk by and I don't say anything, that they feel crushed or whatever. So, same thing with my kids. I could be, doing really well for 14 hours, but in 5 minutes I can, ruin everything I did for the day, with coming, at them from a negative place.
Well, and I think I can relate to that. And I remind you that, yes, your teenager is crazy. Our next question then is a motivational philosophy quote or mantra. Give positive energy. What do you live by? So I love this quote, and it's just resonated with me since I was a kid. And there's a discrepancy on who originally said it, but you don't want to be considered the best at what you at what you do. You want to be considered the only one that does what you do. And so that's, my businesses, we eat, sleep, and drink customer service. We turn down, a significant amount of inquiries if it's for sales or motivation or leadership. That's not us. We eat, sleep, and drink. Even when I was a kid, when my friends, in the fall would play football, in the winter they'd wrestle or play basketball, in the spring they'd play baseball. Well, in the fall, I was, practicing baseball. In the winter, I was inside a gym taking ground balls and batting cage. So I'd make the team in the spring, but I've always been narrow and deep. And that's my mantra. I don't want to be considered, hey, he's one of the best, or they're one of the best. They're it. No, they are it by a significant margin. They're it. And one of my favorite authors, Mike Michalowicz, wrote a book called The Pumpkin Plan. And in The Pumpkin Plan, he talks about how you have to be the EST. You have to be the best or the fastest or the quickest or the cheapest. But in your market, you cannot be an also-ran. You have to be the EST in whatever you choose to. Like Walmart is choosing to compete on price. Well, they're going to be the cheapest. Or Apple is competing on quality. They're going to be the best, or so on. You identify what you want to compete in, but then you don't be an also ran. You go out there and be the EST in whatever arena that you're competing in. So I love that. Our final question, John, is the book that you most often gift or refer to friends, family, and colleagues.
The best book I've read in the past, 18 months is Howard Schultz's third book. And before that, it was his second book. I love all Howard Schultz from Starbucks' book. His is From the Ground Up. And I've just sent it out to so many people recently, business owners and such not, because of just his story and, his social responsibility, what he does for his employees and the community. And it just really makes me want to be a better business to the community when I read it and to my employees. I mean, he's always been a mentor from far away and an inspiration to me.
And John, you've been an inspiration to us. Before we let you go, is there any last bit of advice? How can our audience get in touch with you, find out more about customer experience and what you're doing?
Yeah, that'd be great. The DiJuliusGroup.com, the DiJulius, DiJulius Group.com, or they can email me, John at DiJuliusGroup.com.
And we'll make it really easy for them, John. We'll put all that on the show notes so they have one-stop shop and they will get all the great information. John, you're amazing. You're doing a great job with your customer experience and coming on the podcast and being out there in the community and making a real difference. Thank you for being this week's Modern Leadership Guest Expert.
Thank you, Jake. It was a real pleasure to be your guest.
All right, my friends, what did you think? There was so much packed into that short little episode. I don't know where to start. I mean, I was over here frantically taking notes on how to be a giver, on the 5 ways that we can be better leaders. And of course, this idea of the Un-Gameable interview process, something that's been on my mind a lot with the people that I coach and talk to, is how to get employees that really will perform, not just pass the interview, not just pass the resume, but really when they get in the job, how are they going to make a difference? I love this idea of figuring out an un-gameable interview process so that you can get the right candidates, and not just the right candidates, but the right new employees. Because you know what you can't train? Loving others, commitment, desire, growth mindset. All of these things you have to bring when you come through the interview process. We can train skills. We can't train character. Of course, everything that we talked about on this episode of the podcast can be found at jakeacarlson.com/ML174, episode 174. And until next week, I want to wish you the very best of days, an even better life. And remember, everything is figure-outable. Thanks for listening to the Modern Leadership Podcast. You can find me on Facebook at Speaker Jake, on Twitter at Jake A. Carlson, and of course the website, jakeacarlson.com. See you there.